Anyway, let's start. My name is Björn Eriksson, and I work as a technical evangelist here at Microsoft Sweden. So today I'm going to talk about the Windows Azure Store. And I have built this presentation around different parts. So we're going to start to talk about what is the Windows Azure Store. We're going to talk about why we built the Windows Azure Store. And of course, how do I as a developer use the Windows Azure Store. I'm also going to talk about the partner opportunities that we have so that partnering companies to us can build services and publish them to the Windows Azure Store. This is not generally available and generally open yet, but it will be in the future, hopefully. Still in preview, so anything can happen. Just have to check the sound. Should I change the mic or? No, just continue. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the what. What is the Windows Azure Store? Windows Azure Store was introduced at Build in 2012, so about a year ago. And to sum that up in one sentence, it's a place where Windows Azure users can buy third-party services. So let's break this sentence down and see what it actually means. So we're starting to say that it's a place where Windows Azure users, so you have to be a Windows Azure user to use the Windows Azure Store, which is sort of obvious, but it's included in that it's also connected to your Windows Azure account. So everything that you do with the Windows Azure Store is connected to the Windows Azure account that you have. So you will be using the same bill to pay for your services, and everything is connected to that same place. And it's a place where you can buy, but you can also start using free options, but you use third-party services. So this is not something that Microsoft builds. We have built the framework for where our partners can plug their services into our platform, or as a delivery mechanism or as a purchasing mechanism actually for delivering third-party services. So why did we build this? Well, in my point of view, I would say that Windows Azure is one of the most complete cloud platforms out there. We have a lot of different options for using the platform, a lot of different services that builds up the Windows Azure platform, but we will never be able to do everything. We will never be able to build every little feature that that someone wants. So we are partnering up with other companies to deliver such features for us. So the Windows Azure Store complements and extends the Windows Azure experience. So you as a developer can use the Windows Azure platform, but you can also use other services in conjunction with the Windows Azure platform to extend our platform. Okay, the how. So this is where we'll spend most time of our session. We will look into demos. I will show you the developer experience. That is how can I, as a developer, take advantage of this and use this with my services? All of the demos that I will show will be, or most of the demos that I will show will be actually running outside of Windows Azure, so just command prompt Visual Studio projects. But of course, this applies also to running in your Windows Azure solutions. So let's talk a little bit of what's for sale. So what can you buy in the Windows Azure Store? Or what can you find in the Windows Azure Store? So first of all, app services. So app services are cloud-based services for developers and IT pros. That could, for instance, could be, we've talked a lot about these during these 2 days, but it could be application performance monitoring, like New Relic. We will look into a demo using New Relic. It could be a database as a service. I mean, we have the Windows Azure SQL database as a service. But partners to us have like ClearDB have the MySQL database as a service offering, and MongoLab have the MongoDB database as a service offering, that you can sign up for and use through the Windows Azure Store. We also have messaging services in the Windows Azure Store, like SendGrid, for instance, that we're going to look at for sending emails. So there's technically nothing that stops you from sending emails from your web roles or worker roles, but something can happen on the IP range that your roles are running at that makes those IP addresses blacklisted, which could cause you problems from sending emails. So in that case, it's our recommendation to use SendGrid instead as a email sending partner. And then we also have data services. Data services are data sets that you can use in your application. So it could be, for instance, a business insights from Dun & Bradstreet, or weather data, or address verification, or IP address verification, or stuff like that. So more of a huge data set that you can query and use inside your application. Okay, so let's leave the slides and look at the developer experience and look into New Relic, SendGrid, and Melissa. So first of all, we're gonna switch to the Windows Azure portal. And the add-ons you can find under add-ons, and I have created all the ones that I will need for my demos previously, so I will just briefly now go through the experience of creating a new add-on. So under Store, you have both the app services and the data services. And here you can choose the one that you're interested in. So we can take, for instance, let's see if we can find SendGrid. And click Next. So here you are presented with the different plans. So every third-party service provider can choose what plans they have. So they set their prices. They can have a free offer, and they can have different tiered offerings. So in SendGrid's case, they have a free offering of 25,000 emails per month. And that goes up to the Platinum with 700,000 emails and a lot of other tools or service that they provide to get even more out of your email activities. Every seller has also an option to enter a promotion code, so they can, through our platform, they can publish promotion codes. And when the promotion codes are used, of course, we send them over to the third party, and they can then set up the service as expected, so to say. And you can also choose which data center you want this located in. So if I click Next here, SendGrid is probably used by me already. I will get a summary about what I'm about to purchase. Takes a couple of seconds. And it says here, okay, you're on the free plan, so you will pay a total of 0 Swedish crowns per month. And this will take maybe a couple of minutes to set up, or a couple of seconds sometimes, so it's really fast to do it, but I've already done it, so we don't have to wait for it. And then you can see the different services that you have created, or the different add-ons that you have created from right here in the management portal. So when you click on one of these services, you also get a dashboard. And from this dashboard, you can always see the usage overview. So we can see here that I've sent 18 emails this month, so 0% of the 25,000. That is as many emails I've sent preparing for this talk. And you can also do an upgrade. So there's always an option to upgrade as from one tier to another tier. But the most important part here is the connection info and the manage button. So at the bottom here, you have the connection info and you have the manage. So connection info gives you all the information that you need to hook up your subscription or your part of this service to your application. So I'm not going to show you the connection info. I'm going to keep that as a secret, but I'm going to start a new Visual Studio project. So one good thing about SendGrid is that you can basically use exactly what you're using today to send emails. So it's just a standard .NET implementation, actually. So if we create a new project and paste some code here. So I'm using just systemnet mail to set up this, and the only difference I mean, the exact same code you could have in your application today, and all you need to change basically is to change the SMTP server address. And then I also have the network credentials, so I'm setting in the information that I got from the connection info. So this is generated for me at azure.com, and a little bit to the right there is also my password. So without doing anything else, I will open my email and flip that to the side and run this application. Did I click run? And in just a couple of seconds, it would pop up an email on the side. Yes. One cool thing about SendGrid is that it also has a REST API. So if we look at this URL that I'm using, so at sendgrid.com/API, I do a mail.send.json. I say what API user I am. I add the to address who I'm sending in the mail to. Destination, the subject from HTTP GET, a text for the body, who I'm sending it from, and once again at the end my password. So without going any further, I will just zoom out and just do a regular HTTP GET on this address, and I will get back a message success, and a couple of seconds later a new email will pop up. So really, without doing much coding, standard code, probably the same code as you already have in a lot of your applications. You can change that and use the SendGrid service instead. And if you need to go on a bigger plan than the free plan, you get the bill on your Windows Azure bill. So you don't have to manage 2 different accounts. You don't have to manage 2 different bills. You just sign up for it with your Windows Azure account, and you can use it directly. And since this talks HTTP GET, you can basically do it from whichever embedded system or application or wherever that talks HTTP to send emails. And of course, there are a lot of SDKs for all the different languages that you might want to use. Okay, so next service that we will look at, next add-on is a data service. So this data service is called Melissa Data IP Check. So the sign up for this, of course, goes as the same way as the other service that we signed up for. But here you can get a little bit of code to help you implement this in your application. So once again, we're going to start a new console application. New project, console app, yes, please. And I'm going to choose the language. I'm choosing language of my choice, C#, and downloading a proxy class. So we'll save this. And this proxy class is just information of how my application is going to talk to the service. So I add an existing item from downloads, IP check container, and then I insert the account key. And we add the reference, and we also need a reference to system data.services.client, and this should build. And just to see that we are getting something out of here, we also have a little loop that prints the city, the country, the domain, and the ISP, it should say, ISP of the hoster of that domain name. So to find a IP address, we can use Netcraft, for instance, and let's check myget.org and see what they are running. Myget, no, that was wrong. Let's see the site report. There it is. So myget seems to be running Microsoft West Europe data center. Is that correct? That's correct. Perfect. So let's take the IP address from here and see if we can get some information out of this. So it's just making a query against this service to give it an IP address, and it can reverse look up the information from this. So it says Redmond, United States, Microsoft Corporation. So it's connected, of course, to the information for that IP address or for that hoster. And one cool thing about Melissa and the data services is that if we go back to the portal and we look at this API Explorer, you can also do the same thing here. So they have a list of the API operations that this data set provides. So if I enter the same IP address here, I can choose if I want JSON or Atom, and I can make a request. And I will get basically the same information back from right here in the management portal. So it's two easy ways to start using this data set that Melissa are providing, or data service or service that Melissa is providing. Okay, so let's check out New Relic. So New Relic is a third-party add-on that you can use to monitor your solutions. So I have created a cloud service, and this cloud service is just a standard ASP.NET MVC site. And to start using New Relic on a cloud service, you need to add an agent to this cloud service. This agent will be installed at startup. So when the role is starting up, that instance is starting up, it will download the MSI package and install this. And this is done through a startup task. So if you look at service definition.csdf, we see that we have a startup, and the task is calling newrelic.cmd. This is run in elevated mode, and it's of task type simple. Task type simple meaning that if this fails for some reason, the role won't start at all. So we need to be able to install this or execute this newrelic.cmd to be able to start the role at all. So if you look just quickly in the New Relic CMD, we see that it's doing a bunch of code, and this is not code that I have written. It's code that was added to my project through a NuGet package. So if we look at back to the slides again. This is the NuGet package that I installed. So install package New Relic. No, I can't select there. Install package New Relic Windows Azure, and that adds the startup task. It adds the stuff in the configuration file that kicks the startup task, and basically sets up everything so that I can start using this agent. It also pops up when I ran the command. It also popped up a dialog box asking me for my credentials. So I needed to enter the credentials that I got from the Windows Azure portal into the configuration file from the package. Okay, so back to the project. So this is standard regular web role. So I've deployed this to Windows Azure. And to be able to see some results from this, let's see if my Internet Explorer comes back to life anytime soon. Start a new one, it's always possible. So we see that we have the site up and running.
So here I have a small application that I built just to generate some load. So it's executing an HTTP GET on newrelicsample.cloudapp.net and doing that over and over again, and just to build up some load on the site so that we can see that in the New Relic dashboard later on. So when I'm starting this application, I'm using the voice command. start without debugging. And in just a couple of seconds here, we'll see that the application starts generating requests. So we get a 0, and we get 100, and we get a 200, and so forth.
Let's try this again, but with another command. What can I say? So we have a bunch of commands that you actually can say. Run without debugging doesn't seem to be working at the moment. But let's see. We have some really cool ones here. If we mark some code and say hide selection. Huh? So this was just a show to be able to get New Relic started and have it collect some information. So we go back to while this is running. This is probably shooting us a number of requests against the server. We can go back to the portal. And now inside the portal, you also get a single sign-on experience for moving from the Windows Azure portal over to the New Relic portal. So if I click on Manage down here to the left, I get redirected to the New Relic portal. And here I've created a dashboard with some information. So let's see the web dashboard. And here we should see that it's generating a couple of requests. So we are right now at 1 transaction per minute. So I probably haven't seen the result of this yet. Let's see if we can get some. There you go, 338 transactions, 7.2 milliseconds per request. So it's not real time, but it's almost real time, where you can see the requests start coming in and see where they are coming from and stuff like that. So it's most important of all, it's really easy to set up. It's a solution where you can actually grow in your usage. Most of the services have free plans to start with, and then you can add on more resources and more capacity as you go. But most of all, really easy to start, and it's connected to your bill. So it's once again all on one bill. Okay. So let's go through some slides again. Do we have any questions so far? Do we have anybody in the room who are using the Windows Azure Store? One, but you're not. Okay. So I'm going to go through a couple of steps of what actually was happening behind the scenes when we signed up for this this service. So first of all, the discovery part. The Windows Azure user is asking the Windows Azure Store, what kind of services can I find? So you click on the portal, you click on Store, and you get presented with the different options, the different services that you can buy. When you decide which plan, so as I said, every seller, every partner has the option to have different plans. They can have the free plan and the gold plan and the bronze plan and so forth. And when the user has selected the plan and decides, okay, I want to go through with a purchase, we send a provisioning request to the partner. So the partner, the third-party service, they have a Windows Store SDK that they are using. So they have implemented a service on their side that we are calling with the information that, okay, this user wants to sign up to this plan. So it's really friction-free between the Windows Azure user and the third party. If you click on connection info, you get the connection that you need to be able to set up your application to connect to this service. This could be a Windows Azure website or Windows Azure worker role or a mobile service or an application running outside of Windows Azure. It doesn't have to be inside of Windows Azure. But this connection info is delivered from the third-party service, of course. The user inputs this and starts consuming the service. And as I said, there's also an option to, inside the portal, click on the Manage portal, the Manage button, so you get redirected into the customer's the customer's interface for managing the service. Okay, so let's look into partner benefits. Why should I as a partner build something for the Windows Azure Store? Well, first of all, discoverability. By publishing something in the Windows Azure Store, our partners gets exposed to a lot of users that they wouldn't as easily get to if they were trying to sell their service on their own. A lot of these services that are in the Windows Azure Store I had never heard about before, but starting using the Windows Azure Store, I also discovered these services. So definitely makes it easy for new customers to discover your service. Purchase, it gives your customers very friction-free option to buy your service. So the credit card that you are using on a Windows Azure subscription will be automatically billed for the stuff that you use and used in the payment process with a third-party service. And of course, ease of use. Your service can be installed and used with just a few clicks, so it's really easy for end customers. If we look into the customer's terms and conditions, so it's a monthly subscription. So from month to month, you commit to the next month. So you're actually paid or billed in advance for the purchase you do. So if you buy a bronze plan, for instance, you get billed for that, and you can use that for 1 month. You don't have to commit to a 6 months or a 1 year plan, but you just commit 1 month at a time. And it's also automatically renewed, so you have to either opt out from this automatically renewal, otherwise you will be billed every month, even though you're not using any part of that service. There's also a cancellation policy saying that we or the third party don't fee you anything or add a fee to terminate your subscription. So if you don't want to continue using, you just cancel the subscription or delete the service. For instance, I could do, if you go back to the management portal and I just select my SendGrid and I say delete and I confirm. And a couple of seconds later, this service has been deleted and I can't use it anymore. So definitely for the free options, it's really easy to just sign up and use it for the time you need it and then delete it. So, but if you're paying, you are paying for 1 month at a time. As I said, also the financial instrument that you have associated with your Windows Azure subscription will be automatically used for also for the third party. And of course, you have to agree to the seller's terms and conditions, but that sort of goes without saying. For the seller, if you're a seller that's going to sell something in the Windows Azure Store, you will keep 80% of the collected revenue. So we are handling all the billing information or the billing part of this. So you get to keep 80% of the revenue that you get from selling through the Windows Azure Store. You have to define the different tiers. So all of the sales done through the Windows Azure Store is through these tiers, and you have to define them. But you are able to set your own prices. So you can basically have as cheap or as expensive services or tiers that you want to. But one really important thing here is the seller's responsibility, because the seller is responsible for provisioning, upgrading and canceling the service. That's not our responsibility. Microsoft's responsibility is for the billing platform. That's our responsibility. But we hand over a request to the third party to provision a new service on your behalf. And it's their responsibility to respond to that in a timely manner and set up the service for you. And they are also responsible for the success of the service. So they are responsible for scalability, for stability, support, and documentation. And all that part is not Microsoft's responsibility, but the partner's responsibility. We also have some limitations at the moment. This is a service that is in preview so far. So As long as it's in preview, everything might change basically. But as long as it's in preview, it's also only available to customers who pay Windows Azure by credit card. So if you have an enterprise agreement or a monetary commitment of some kind, you don't have access to the Windows Azure store. And this will show up as soon as you try to access the store. So if we go back to, if I filter on a subscription that's under an enterprise agreement, and I click on new and select the store, it will say that, okay, sorry, Windows Azure Store is not available in your region, or if you have an enterprise agreement. So it's not available in all the countries that Windows Azure is available in today. This is, of course, something that will change during the development of this service. And at this time, we can also only accept sellers that have businesses in the United States. So if it's a Swedish company, for instance, they have to have a subsidiary or of some kind in the US to be able to enter the store at this moment. This is, of course, also something that will change over time.
One question.
Yes, thank you.
The seller, if he has, he has built this service in your network, he must also pay, of course, for the normal use of Azure, for doing his product.
Okay, so the question is if I as a seller build a service that I want to sell in the Windows Azure store and I want to host my service in your data center in Windows Azure, do I have to pay for the usage that I have in Windows Azure? And the answer is yes. You're a regular customer, it's just a way for you to monetize on your service. So yes, you have to pay. Any more questions?
What are the APIs and so on for a seller to get connected to the store? I mean, I built a service I want to monetize on, and I want to get it in the store. What requirements, technical requirements, and so on, do I have to fulfill?
Yeah. So the question is about technical requirements. If I'm a seller and I've built a service that I want to publish to the Windows Azure store, what do I actually need to do? This is not entirely clear yet for the ones that are not in the program to actually publish in the store, but there is a Windows Store SDK that you are supposed to use. And inside of that SDK, you have to implement a couple of services. So you have to be able to answer on provisioning requests. You have to be able to answer to which plans do I have. And you have to be able to provide information about your service and documentation and stuff like that. So some of the fields are mandatory and some of the fields are free. So you can add links to documentation and stuff like that. But some parts are optional and some parts are mandatory. But it will become more clear when we publish the SDK and we get into general availability also. Any more questions? Okay, so deliberately I've kept it short, Friday afternoon. So that was all that I had to bring. And once again, thank you for attending Cloudburst on site or on premises or online.
In the cloud,
Thank you.
right? Thank you.